which combat patrols are the best value, and which ones have the best models to try and start an army with. Today I'm going to be going through that and going through every single one. There are 25 combat patrols at the moment, so to go through every single one, I'm going to go through the cost saving of each one, how much it costs for RRP, how much it costs overall, and how much you save, and we'll go through it all. So let's get into it. So let's start with Drukhari. Drukhari's combat patrol is a bit of a weird one in the fact that it doesn't really have any of the core units that you generally see throughout most of Drukhari armies going around at the moment, like Cavalite Warriors, Witches, Succubus, Archon, Incubi, those sort of units that ring to mind for me that read as, a Drukhari army. This feels very specialized in the fact that it's going down the homunculus path sort of route. Now, the actual contents of this box is a homunculus, it is a Cronus, a Talos, and 10 racks. So you can have use of these in armies. I'm not saying that the units are bad as such, but it also always feels like it doesn't have like a nice spread, which we're going to go into other combat patrols later on that feels like it has a much better spread of units. So here, I'm not 100% sure if I like the box, but the value of the box comes to £136.50, so you save £31.50. It's not the worst saving in the world. It's certainly not the worst saving we're going to see throughout this tier list, but I just don't like the box, to be honest. Like, if I was going to do a combat patrol challenge, this would be awful, personally. I just don't think it adds much to what Drukhari is trying to be at the moment, unless they're really going down the homunculus route. I think they need to have other units, like maybe Lilith, the new Lady Malice in there, or an Archon, or a Succubus, or I feel like they just went down the Covens route too heavily with their combat patrol, and I think it'd be cool to explore other options. So for that reason, I'm going to put it into Knight's Existence. Not a fan. So, not a fan of the Drukhari one. So let's go on to the next one. Leagues of Votann. So Leagues of Votann Combat Patrol box is actually, I think, pretty decent. So the contents of this box is an NA Champion, 3 Brockia Thunderkin, 10 Hearthguard Warriors, and 5 Hearthguard Terminators, which are basically Arnia Terminators. Now, this box is pretty good, I think. So the overall cost of this box is 143. Obviously, it comes in at £105 from GW, so you save yourself 38 quid. So 38 quid is pretty good saving for combat patrol as a general rule. You normally find that in the region of like 30 or 50 quid. Like 50 quid's sort of pushing it most of the time, but most of the time it's in that sort of region. Now, for that reason, I think Leagues of Votann, also the unit choice here is really good for core armies. So Hearthkin Warriors, Hearthguard, Thunderkin, all very good units. Any champions you're always going to find a use for. Like, this box is very beginner friendly, and it'll be very good for a new Votann person to pick it up and go start their Space Dwarfs. So for that reason, I'm going to put them into good as the greater good tier. So I think this is pretty good. So I think this is one of the better ones we're going to see in terms of, the Xenos ones anyway. So we'll go into the next one. So let's go. Next, we're going to look at Space Wolves. Space Puppies are one of my favorite Space Marine chapters. They are awesome. I painted a big army of them earlier in the year, and it was really, really fun. Now, this box, I think, is pretty cool. So we've basically got a Wolfguard Battle Leader, core of most armies. We've got 10 Blood Claws, brilliant. 5 Wolfguard Terminators, brilliant. And 5 Wolfen, brilliant. You're going to find those in a lot of the core lists that you find. And this is a great starter box for bits as well. Like the Wolfguard Terminator box comes with 1,000,000 bits. The Wolfguard, which you can obviously put onto other stuff like the Wolfguard Battle Leader, or save it for other conversions later down the line. And they are also a set of really nice minis. Like the Wolfguard Terminators are absolutely fantastic. Wolfen are a bit dated, but they still think they really agree with that sort of werewolfy vibe, which is awesome. And obviously 10 Blood Claws are 10 Blood Claws. They're fantastic. So this is one of my favorite boxes we have on this list, so I'm going to put this in have to buy immediately. This is awesome. If you're a Space Wolf player, or you're thinking about starting Space Wolves, especially as a beginning player, this is a great box. Even as somewhat a competitive player, you're going to find uses for these units at some point when you use Space Wolves, because the Space Wolf specific units in the Codex are very good, because a lot of their strats and stuff are keyworded to it. And for that reason, I'm going to put them into have to buy immediately. They are incredible. I would definitely go buy a box if I was a Space Wolf player. Okay, let's move on to Tyranids. Tyranids are one of the cooler factions. They've had a lot of love over the last couple of decades. And, in 9th edition, they were amazing. 10th edition had a bit of a drop-off, but they're still been solid throughout the edition. But their combat patrol is something to, not be too jealous of. So, effectively, the Parasite Mortrex is in there. We've got 3 Tyrant Guard. We've got a Biovore and 10 Genestealers. So, this is a bit weird. So Parasite of Mortrix in a combat patrol, first of all, is just a bit of a crazy decision, in my opinion. Like, I just don't really feel like that needed to be in there, because it's sort of like a niche character that you don't really see in many armies. I mean, people can take them, and they are a cool mini, but they're just not a unit that I would say is a standout thing that a lot of the beginners want to jump on. They're onto the Tyrant Guard. The Tyrant Guard are really misplaced here, because there's not a Tyrant in there. Now, can you take Tyrant Guard without a Tyrant? Yes, you can. However, if you're going to make a combat patrol, why not have a Hive Tyrant and a Tyrant Guard? That feels like a very natural sort of, process to have. But 3 Tyrant Guard on their own just feels weird. So I'm not a monstrous fan of them being there. Then a Biovore. Biovore is one of the things you add to your list, like sort of later down the line, because Biovores are great for scoring, for throwing out spore mines, for stopping advanced rolls and that sort of thing. But in terms of a beginning an army, I just want some Termagants or some Hormagants or something chaffy, like maybe even Gargoyles maybe. But this box feels very lean, which I don't think is really the Tyranid vibe as it really should be. So, no, not a fan of those being there. 10 Genestealers, love that. 10 Genestealers are great. 10 Genestealers I can't argue with. They're a great unit. They're cool. We like them. Everyone likes Genestealers. They're good in a multitude of detachments and one of the core units that you can have in most lists. So I think that's cool. But overall, the RRP of this is £147 individually, so you save yourself 42 quid. However, the box isn't great. Like, saving 42 quid's great, and if you want to have these units in your army, and this is a good starting point, then fine. But I feel like they sort of put in the units that aren't from Leviathan here, so therefore the combat patrols kind of suffered. Like, if Leviathan is going to carry on selling, and it's going to still be out, I'd recommend just getting the Leviathan boxes instead, because they're just better, to be honest. Like, I think the contents in that is going to be much better. You have more a variance of units, you have utility for all of the units, and if you bought this and a Leviathan, you could make something pretty cool out of that. You could have the Tyrant Guard for the Nero Tyrant and all that sort of thing. So, you can definitely see it. However, because of all the reasons I just said, we're going to put this into Deny Its Existence, because I just don't think it needs to be here. I mean, it's good for saving some money on those units, but I just don't feel like beginners really want those units. They want gaunts, big bugs, all that sort of thing. And they've somehow managed to miss the mark on all of those things, which is super impressive. But yeah, so let's go on to the next one. Black Templars. So, Black Templars have a pretty cool box here. I really like this box. So, we have Emperor's Champion. Then we have 3 Blade Guard Veterans, 5 Sword Brethren, and 10 Crusaders. This is probably one of my favourite boxes that they've done throughout the combat patrol. Because you've got 3 Blade Guard Vets, which is a solid unit, there always are. 5 Sword Brethren, core of a lot of these awesome new Black Templar lists that you can always see them going around. And also, it's a source of a lot of bits. Like, if you start a Black Templar army, and you got those 5 Sword Brethren, and you've got the Crusader box, between that, you probably have enough bits to convert a lot of the stuff that you have. Like, I would still buy 2 of these boxes, even though there's 2 Emperor's Champions in there. You could convert one to a Castellan or a Marshal, or whatever you wanted to do. But I think this is a fantastic starting place for a Black Templar army, because it gives you 2 really good, strong core units. You could even convert the Blade Guard into more Sword Brethren, so you actually end up with 2 units of 4 Sword Brethren, which is super cool. And ultimately, the value is really good. So the value on this is 145 individually, so it's going to be 40 quid saved. That's pretty good as well. Like, it's in that region. It's in that region, 30 to 40 quid, smack bang in the middle. So, but I think this will push it up. I think this will push it above most other combat patrols that you're going to see. Is the unit choices here are really clever and smart. Like, everyone wants an Emperor's Champion. Everyone wants Sword Brethren. And if you're a combat player, you want Blade Guard. If you don't want to use them as Blade Guard, just convert them to Sword Brethren. Like, it just feels like there's a lot of options here for that. So, for that reason, this is going to sit very firmly in have to buy. Because I think this is a fantastic box. And if you're a Black Templar player and you haven't got this box yet, or if you're just starting Black Templars, it's a pretty damn good box to start off with. Grey Knights, my boys, my babies, have they given them a good combat patrol? So, the contents of this combat patrol is Castellan Crow. Very strong start. Everyone wants Crow. He's an awesome mini. He's great in the list. He's one of our main characters, so you'd hope he's in there. Then we have 10 Strike Marines. Core of any list. Solid choice again. Fantastic. All good. Then we have 5 Brother Terminators. Again, not mad at. Terminators are great. I think they're a good unit to just step in there as well. They've basically got 2 of our battle line choices in there, which is pretty cool. And this is the Rogue choice. A Venerable Dreadnought. So, the Venerable Dreadnought is an old mini And yes, they're all old minis, right? But it's an old mini that I think didn't need to be in this combat patrol, because I think this last spot would be really good, well used for something else. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe just even another box of strikes. I know that sounds boring, but they can be built as interceptors, they can be built as purifiers. Like, if you had 2 boxes of strikes there, you could have like 10 purifiers, 10 strikes, 5 terminators. That's a cool little mix. But the Venerable Dread's just way out of pocket. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a cool mini. Actually, is it? I'm not a fan of the mini, actually. I'm going to take that back. It's not a cool mini. In my opinion, anyway. But if you like it, then fair enough. But for this reason, I don't think it's a solid box for those reasons. Also, it's not very, rebuyable. I know I said that the Emperor's Champion can be converted into a castle or something like that, which you could totally do. But converting the Crow Mini is a little bit more difficult because it's very nuanced, it's very specific and niche. You'd have to find a sword that's better scale, like the same scale, because all of the Grey Knight weapons wouldn't be to scale on that mini. And I just don't think it's very, like, spammable. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think I'd be able to buy three of these boxes and be happy with myself. So, yeah. With the RRP individually is 150. So that's not bad. You are saving 45 quid there. So that is pretty good. However, I think I can't put into deny its existence just because of the Dreadnought. I'm going to say, unlike Magnus, this did do something wrong because of the Dreadnought. So I'm going to put this into the amber tier, as it were. And then we're going to move on. Thousand Suns, the Grey Knights, sort of Chaos counterparts, I suppose, Psychic Bros. So this box seems pretty damn good. So basically we've got a Demon Prince, a Zangor Shaman, Zangor Enlightened, which can be built with the bows or the spears, and 10 rubrics. So this seems like a good box. However, I have a couple of issues with it. But first of all, we're going to go for the good. Getting a Demon Prince in any box is fantastic because I love that mini. Oh, Demon Princes. Always put a Demon Prince in my combat patrol. I'll always get it. Zangor Shaman and Zangor Enlightened. I feel like they're cool. I think Enlightened rather than normal Zangor is interesting. Like, if you're looking at core concepts for combat patrols, I would want to have the key units that you're going to have. And then translate that into the rules in the combat patrol game, right? So I think Zangor Enlightened and Zangor Shaman, I don't think you need 2 characters in the box. I don't think you need those. I think you could remove those and add other cool stuff, like maybe some robots or... I think for me, I'd just replace the Zangor Shaman with some robots and the Zangor Enlightened with some Zangor, because I don't think you need like those little pieces there. They're really niche. So maybe even a Rhino. Rhinos are cool, but you know, I think this box is okay. But this is a really big saving. So this is £157.50 for each individual item without the cost saving. So it's basically £52.50 that you save. This is probably one of the higher. Like, I think this is probably one of the highest, maybe? I'm not gonna speak too soon. I think it's one of the highest savings. So even though I'm not a massive fan of the box, the savings here are mad. And for a beginner player who you just see some Enlightened on some discs, you may love that. So I'm gonna put this into... You're gonna put this into the average tier. So we're gonna put smack bang average. Gonna put it right in the middle. I think that it's a fine box. I don't think it's a terrible box. And I think it's okay. So, on that note, let's move on. Emperor's Children. So, Emperor's Children are one of the newer releases that have happened over the last, year or last year. We're going to go last year. So the box has a Lord Exultant, 6 Flawless Blades, and 10 Infractors. So these units are all really good for core Emperor's Children. As a core of Emperor's Children. Flawless Blades, great unit. Lord Exultants, you can find like 2 or 3 of them in every army. The 10 Infractors can be built as Infractors or Tormentors. Both of those units you're going to see a lot of. And it's a very spammable box because the Flawless Blades could be turned into other characters. Like, you could turn a Flawless Blade feasibly into a Lord Exultant. So from this box, I would say if you bought 2 of them, you would have effectively 12 Flawless Blades, 2 Lord Exultants, and 20 Infractors, which is a really good core for most Emperor's Children's armies. Now, I think it's all very infantry heavy, but I still think it's a fantastic Emperor's Children box. And if I started Emperor's Children, I'd go out and buy that box. So on that basis, and also the individual price of all this, it comes up to £147. And you save 42. So this is in that region of bang average for the amount that you save. But it's a very good box. So I'm going to put this into have to buy. The unit choice here is impeccable. good choices, Games Workshop, awesome. So, let's move on to the next one. The World Eaters. Now, we start off with one of my favourite things in a Common Patrol, as I just mentioned earlier, which is the Demon Prince. So, we have a Demon Prince, we have a Master of Executions, 10 Berserkers and 10 Jackals. RRP comes in at £153 per, well, not per item, but between all those items, and then we save 48. It's one of the higher ends of the ones that you save. Now, this box is awesome. So I really like it. It's not like mental, because the only thing is, because I do like a Demon Prince in my Common Patrol box, but for beginner friendly, you want to spam, if you want to spam a couple boxes to try and get a bigger army, you would have multiple Demon Princes, which isn't the worst thing in the world if that's the vibe you're going for, but it's not a very common thing you're going to see. So on that basis, the saving is good, but the fact that you have Khorne Berserkers and Jackals in there, I think those units you can have multiple of quite happily. Master of Executions, not very spammable, but a cool unit to have. So for that reason, it's not going to go right to the top, but it's going to sit in good as the greater good, which I'm sure every Khorne player is going to, every World Eaters player is going to absolutely love that it's called them good as the greater good. But hey, so after that, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so Death Guard. Death Guard have an interesting box here. So we have a Lord of Virulence, we have a Tallyman, we have a Chaos Rhino, we have 3 Death Shroud Terminators, and 7 Plague Marines. This box is pretty good. I think this box, I think the Lord of Virulence and the Tallyman together are an interesting choice. It's not the fact that they're bad, it's just that I don't like most Common Patrols when they have 2 characters, unless it's like, in fact, no, I can't give you an example, but I wouldn't really want to have 2 characters in a Combat Patrol. That's the reason why I wasn't a massive fan of the Thousand Suns one as much either, and the reason, probably another reason why the World Eaters came down a bit. So here, the actual Plague Marines as a choice, fantastic. Death Shroud as a choice, fantastic. Lord of Virulence is a character that I don't know if you'd ever really want to spam, so I don't really know if that's whether that marks it up or down. But the Tallyman, you only ever need 1 of. No one's ever going to take more than 1 Tallyman. So I think this box is interesting, but the saving is mental. So the actual RRP of each individual piece together is all £161.50, and that is £56.50 saved overall, which is obviously a very big saving here. So it's hard to mark it, down, but I think I'm going to put this into average. Now, I think this one could be good. Like, it could be in the good category if maybe on a different day, in a different mood or whatever. But I think this one does sit in average for me just because it's the lack of spamability here. But for the price, but for the price alone, I could see anyone wanting this to go into good. So, yeah, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. This was one of the ones that I thought was a little bit controversial, so let me know. Let's move on to the next one. Aeldari, my boys, my sweet baby boys. Do we have a good Combat Patrol? So we have a Spirit Seer, start off with 5 Wraith Guard, we have 10 Dire Avengers, and 5 Warp Spiders. Now, this all comes to £159.50 from each individual item added together, which comes to a saving of £54.50. So, the individual items of this are a little bit weird. I feel like Wraith Guard should never be in a Combat Patrol. If you're going to have like a Wraith Guard or Wraith units in a Combat Patrol, make it a Yanding Combat Patrol. Like they did a while ago. They did like that Wraith Combat Patrol where it was like a Wraith Lord, a couple units of Wraith Guard, a Spirit Seer, and I think that was it. Maybe 3 units of Wraith Guard, but whatever. That for specific roles like that, I think it's great. But in a Combat Patrol like this, it just feels a little bit out of place. Now, I know the Spirit Seer sort of can go with them and all that sort of thing, but it just doesn't feel like the start of an Aeldari army, right? I think this box should have some Storm Guardians, should have maybe even a Farseer or something, just something more basic, something less niche than a Spirit Seer. 10 Dire Avengers I like, 5 Spiders I like, getting you introduced to the first lot of, Aspect Warriors. But I think that the Wraith Guard are a bit out of pocket. I don't think it needs to be there. So I think also it's say £54.50, so the saving isn't actually that bad here. So it's not going to go into Delete from Codex because it's not that bad. So we're going to put this into Unlike Magnus. This did do something wrong, and then we'll move on to the next one. So next is Astra Militarum. So for the Imperial Guard, for you older folk out there. So the actual contents of this is a 5-man Cadian command squad, 10 Kasrkin, and 2 units of 5 Outland Rough Riders, or 10 Rough Riders, whichever one takes your fancy. Now, the total cost of this box is £152 from each individual item, which leads to a saving of £47 on the nose. So effectively, this box I think is decent. Like, you've got a Cadian command squad, 10 Kasrkin, 10 Outland Rough Riders. I think the only thing I would change is I would want a unit of Cadians in here. Like, I think I'd drop 5 Rough Riders for 10 Cadians. Just a box of them, and that would look. I think this box would then be bang on. I think there's nothing wrong with that box then. So I think that, you know, that's fine. But the actual overall saving, let's go into that. So it's £152 for each individual item and £47. So you've saved £47 overall, which is good. But yeah, so I'm going to put this into the good category because the saving is good. I just don't think the Rough Riders needed to be doubled up, but it's not bad. You probably, there's some recon player out there that wants like 16 of these boxes or whatever. But yeah, well, not 16, that's an exaggeration. But you know, he wants 3 or 4. So yeah, for that reason, it's going to go to good, and we're going to move on. It's going to go into the good as the greater good, and we're going to move on to the next one. Blood Angels, everyone's favourite vampiric bros. So we have a Blood Angel Captain, a 6 Sanguinary Guard, 10 Assault Intercessors, and 2 Upgrade Sprues. Now, this box actually comes to quite a decent saving, weirdly, because of the Upgrade Sprues as well. So this comes to £168 for all of the individual items added together, which leads you to a saving of £58. So that's not bad. That's a pretty good saving. Probably, again, one of the higher ones we've seen so far. So this box, I think, is really solid. So the BA Captain, great. You can spam that and turn it into different characters. You've got 6 Sanguinary Guard, which does lead you to not be able to spam this. Like I think that the Black Templar box is one of the ones you can just buy. You can buy 3 of them, no problem. Like you would have 15. You have 15 Sword Brethren. You have a load of Crusaders. You have a load of Blade Guard. I think that's fine. But I think having 18 Sangard is obviously fine as well. You could obviously buy 3 of these boxes and you would have 3 captains, 30 assault intercessors, and 18 Sangard. But the reason why you save so much money here is the upgrade sprues included, because it comes with 2 upgrade sprues, which is really good for this sort of box. But yeah, I think this was almost in go out and buy immediately, but it didn't quite make it for me. So I'm going to put this into good as the greater good, and we'll move on to the next one. So next one goes to the Imperial Agents Combat Patrol. The Imperial Agents is a bit weird. I tried to find prices for the Vigilant Squad, and I can't find it anywhere. So if you find the price of Vigilant Squad, drop it in the comments below. That'd be fantastic, because I don't know. So yeah, so basically with the actual breakdown of this, you've got a Ministerium Priest, an Eversor Assassin, 6 Inquisitorial Agents, and 20 Vigilants, which comes with the 2 little dogs and the 2 little Nuncio Aquilas. So I've guessed those at 70 quid for this, exercise. So each individual item, all added together here, adds up to £154.50, which leads you to a £49.50 saving, which is obviously very good. Now, the actual model count in this is very good. Like, you've got, effectively almost 30 minutes. In fact, you have got 30 minutes, which is obviously great for a combat patrol. Now, I think that the saving is good, and to be honest, I can't really see a unit that you're not going to be using in an Imperial Agents army. And I'm not an Imperial Agents army expert, but I feel like you could use all of those. The only problem is it's not repeatable, right? So, I think I would put it in have to buy if you weren't making an army of it. Like, for a painting project, I'd buy one, no problem. Get an Adeptus Assassin, get some cool characters, and all sort of thing. But as for an army situation, I'm not really sold. So we're going to put this into good as the greater good, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Genestealer Cults. So, Genestealer Cults are an expensive army, and there are a few reasons why, and the Combat Patrol is one of them. So, we start off with a Jackal Alphas, an Achilles Ridge Runner, 5 Outland Jackals, and 10 Hybrid Metamorphs that can also be built as the Acolytes, hybrids as well. Now, the RRP from each individual item comes to £137, which leads you to a £32 saving, which is lower than most of them. I think this is the lowest so far, But this isn't a great box in terms of savings, and in terms of actual spammability, it can be. The character feels just a bit of a rogue choice, to be honest. I don't think you need the Jackal Alphas. Maybe the Jackals in there and stuff, but I think you should just have a character. And I don't know if you guys remember the old Combat Patrol where you came with the Acolyte Icon Ward. That's an awesome guide to have in there, because you could just have 3 of those because they were so cheap. You could just have 3 of them in an army and it's fine. Which I suppose you can do with Jackal Alphas, but they just perform less of a role. And that would lead you down the path of buying a load of bikes, which becomes really expensive and kind of difficult for entry level people to try and keep up with and maintain and build and paint, because actually an also very difficult army to paint. I think if I was going to do a Combat Patrol for this, I would try to keep it as simple as possible. So just some aberrants, so you have some aberrants, an abominant, some hybrids, a truck, just some basic stuff that you start you off with an army. Some of these choices feel a little bit niche, and I'm not a massive fan of it. But it's not terrible because the 10 Metamorphs and the Ridge Runner and the Jackals can be used. It's not like they can't be used. It's not like it's an awful box, but there are better. So I'm going to put this into Unlike Magnus. This did do something wrong. I'm going to move on to the next box. Okay, Adeptus Sororitas, sisters for the old people out there. So we have a Canoness, 5 Celestial Sacrosancts, 10 Battle Sisters, and 10 Arco Flags. So this comes to £145 for each of the individual items, which leads to a saving of £40 from each individual item overall. This is a good saving, sits in the middle of the range that we expect for these sort of combat patrols. The units, fine, they are good. You could buy a couple of these boxes and it's all good. Now, originally I was going to put these in average. However, when you see that most lists can run around with 2 or 3 Canonesses and like 30 Sacrosancts, you sort of make you think that this is a little bit of a spammable box. So I think this box, the only thing is you're not going to be able to use loads of Arco Flags and all of the Sacrosancts at the same time. You can use them at the same time, that's a lie. But like, not the sort of like lists that you see. If you just want to like put models on the table and you want to go out and start just painting these guys, this is a really good box, which is actually what I'm going to judge it on. So I'm not going to put it in average, I'm going to put it in good. Good for the, good is the greater good for the sisters, because they deserve it. Sisters are doing it for themselves, and I love this box. It's just, it is a cool box, to be fair. And I like the Canoness, because it's one of those units you can use on a few different units, and it has multiple uses. So, let's move on to the next one. Chaos Space Marines. So, Chaos Space Marines has a Master of Possession. 5 Possessed, 10 Chaos Space Marines, so Legionaries, and 10 Chaos Cultists. This comes to £140 overall for each individual item, which leads you to a £35 saving. So this box, £35 saving, lower out of the ones we've seen, but not awful. We've got Master Possession and Possessed, cool. They're awesome minis. And Possessed you can use a lot of. Legionaries you can never have too many of. Cultists, I like to have 20 or 30 Cultists, so you could easily buy 2 or 3 of these boxes nice and easily. And yeah, so I think this box is actually uniquely quite cool because you have like a theme going around with the Master Possession and the Possessed, which can also just slot into any army. They haven't skewed this too hard, like they have with the Drukhari, right? They've just gone, these are Flesh Coven people, the Leathermaths Edgelords, so let's leave those to one side. However, the Chaos Space Marines feel like they have approached this in a more balanced and neutral way, which is super fun. So I'm going to put this into have to buy. And this might be skewed because I love Chaos Space Marines, but I'm going to put these into have to buy and then move on to the next one. Okay, so Tau Empire. So Tau Empire, the box has a Commander, Enforcer, or Cold Star. We have a Devilfish, Breach of Fire Warrior team, 10 Pathfinders, and then some drones that go with it as well. Now, the RRP of each individual item here is £147.50, which does lead you to a £42.50 saving, which is slightly above average for these combat patrols. So, the good thing about this box is you can buy 3 of these boxes quite easily. The character can be potentially 2 variants, so you could potentially buy 6 of these boxes and it'd be totally fine. The other thing is you'd end up, not having uses for the Pathfinders eventually, which you could obviously turn into Fireside teams and all that sort of thing. However, the box is solid. It comes with a transport, it comes with a battlesuit character, it comes with some breaches, some Pathfinders, and the drones that go around. I think this is just a great box, to be honest. The only thing that I would like this to be changed a little bit is maybe have, because I think there's the reason why I like this box so much, because it's the first one that had a Commander Enforcer in it. Because there's loads of others that had like an Ethereal, which Ethereals are cool, but not really viable. So I think this one is good. I'm not going to put it into have to buy. And the reason why is, I don't know. I just know one that I would buy like 2 or 3 of, because I would want to have, I don't think I'd want more than like 20 breaches. Like, I just don't think I'd want to have Riptides, XV8s, Ghost Keels, all those big things. So I'm not going to put it into the have to buy category, because those are my favorite things and that's just my personal preference. But I will say this is a great box. So I'm going to put this into good is the greater good, as the Tau should be. I'm going to move on to the next one. Custodes. So Custodes have a pretty cool box. So let's get into it. So we have a Blade Champion, 3 Alaris Custodes, 5 Custodian Guard, and 5 Wardens. Now, I'm not going to go to the points of every single combat troll, but I will touch on this here. Custodes are a very high point per model faction, because they're very elite. They have lots of little neat tricks that keep them all alive. Wardens get a feel of pain, all that sort of thing. And that leads these to have very expensive points cost. So if you're looking at just trying to get 2,000 points on the table as soon as possible, Custodes is a really good one. Because if you basically buy 3 of these boxes, that's close to 2k. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it can't be far off. The Aeldari Custodians are expensive. Blade Champions are expensive. I could do some maths quickly, but I think this is going to be about 2k. Not far off. Maybe just buy some Sisters, and then that'll top it up. And each individual piece altogether, adds up to £147.50. So you actually save yourself £42. Now, that's a pretty good saving on these boxes. We know it's about average from the ones that we've looked at so far. But the unit choices here are really good. Wardens, a lot of people like using. Custo Guard, there's literally lists going around 30 of them. Aeldari Custodians have a really cool detachment where you split them up and just go around and do some cool bits. Blade Champs are always useful. Gives you advance and charge in a unit. Brilliant. Love that stuff. So, I think I'm going to sit these into good. I'm going to sit this into good. Because I do... Actually, no. You know what? I've changed my mind. I've talked myself into it. This is a have to buy. If you're starting Custodes, I would absolutely buy this box. And I'd absolutely buy 3 of them. Because it just means that I have an army done like that. Automatically done. All good. Because I've only got like, I don't know, like 45 models, something like that to paint. Which is, easy one to start off with as well. So, yeah. I'm going to put this into have to buy, guys. If you're a Custode player, go and have a look at it. And we'll move on to the next one. Let's go. Dark Angels. So the Dark Angel Combat Patrol is a weird one. So just a precursor. So we have a captain with Gravis armor, 3 Blade Guard veterans, 5 Hellblasters, 10 intercessors, and some Dark Angel upgrade sprues. Now this comes up to £148 saved. Now the reason why is I've halved the cost of a Hellblaster box. So effectively, Hellblasters come in boxes of 10. There's 5 of them that come in this box. So I've just charged half for the unit, which makes sense, I think. Now, I think that this box is not great. Blade Guard are cool. Captain of Gravis armor, cool. 5 Hellblasters? Feels like a cop-out. When you look at the box, right, this is 148 overall, so 43 quid saved. Now, the highest we're going to see across the savings here is 61, I think. Maybe we've looked at it already, but the BA one was really high. But it feels like a massive cop-out not putting enough unit of 10 Hellblasters. It just feels wrong. Like, you see normally 2 boxes of 40 quid stuff, a character, and a box of 30-something quid stuff, which leads you to about 130, 140 odd quid. But I feel like they've really leaned into the Dark Angels upgrade sprues here, and that's taken away some of this from the box. So yeah, I don't like it for that reason. It actually kind of ruins it for me because I think this is one of the boxes that feels the worst value, but even realistically it's not. But it feels one of the worst because it comes with a 5-man unit. Like, what Space Marine comes with a 5-man unit? Like, I know that obviously the elite stuff, but the Hellblaster box is a 10-man. It feels like a cop out. Like, even the Eldar box, which has a 5-man unit, which is the Dire Edges come in 5 mans, comes with a 10-man. So I feel like they could have done better here. So I'm going to put this into deny its existence. I know that's a harsh one from a Dark Angel bros, but I just think you guys deserve a better combat patrol. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, I'm going to link a video here, quite shamelessly, which is the first video I did, which was out Tuesday. So effectively, I spoke about the armies and ranking them and how difficult they are to paint and how difficult they are to sort of approach in that sort of way. Now, I think AdMech are one of the worst out there by a good mile, and there's a few reasons why. The entry level is really high. So the hobby side of things is really difficult to keep up with and difficult to, achieve. So building them, very difficult to do. Painting them, lots of details, all that sort of thing. Now, not going to get into that too much. If you want to go watch that, go watch the video. But the combat patrol doesn't help us at all here. So it comes with a Tech Priest Manipulus. Cool unit, fine. 3 Cerberus Sulphur Hounds. 5 Protexi Sterilizers. 10 Vanguard / Rangers. Now, the points on this box is about 300. I think. Something along those lines. Give or take 20 points. But if it's about 300 points, right? And we were talking earlier that 3 Custo boxes is almost 2k. What is this? I understand that the AdMech is a bunch of trash units that, not literally trash, but units that go out, don't do loads of damage, but can score. Well, there's a couple of big shooty bricks behind it. But that's just what this box is. There's a Manipulus that doesn't have anywhere to go. There's 3 Sulphur Hounds that are £40 for 60 points. There is 5 Sterilizers that are £40 for 70 points. There is 10 Vanguard / Rangers. Now they're either 85 or 90, I think it is. One of the two. As in, they both have 2 different points costs. So this box comes to £142 for all the pieces added together. And that leads to a £37.50 saving. So, but that's just not enough here. I also just don't think they've picked the right units to try and start off an army. So for those reasons, I'm going to put these solidly into, unlike Magnus, this did do something wrong. I'm not going to put it into the trash tier because I can't also blame a combat patrol because the price of an army, but I just think the units are wrong. And also, Manipulus is just out of place. But let's go on to the next one. So, Necrons. Necrons, one of my favourite factions apparently, according to people. It's not. But I do feel for them here. I don't think this is a great combat patrol, so let's get into it. So we have an Overlord, we have a Canoptic Doomstalker, 3 Scorpec Destroyers, 10 Warriors, and then the 3 Swarms that come with a Warrior box. Now, each individual piece here added together leads to £131, which only leads to a £26 saving. This is the lowest saving I've seen across these boxes. I think it's pretty poor. So, for that reason, this is going to go quite low. But then we have to look at the unit choices as well. Doomstalker is fine, but it's Canoptic. Basically, it feels like they've covered. Scorpion Destroyers is an okay unit to put in there as well. The Overlord is okay, but I think I would go for something more crypt-techy, if that makes sense, just to go with the Warriors or something like that. Something cool like that. But overall, the saving just makes this the worst one, I think. I'm going to put this straight into deny. I don't think this... I think Necrons deserve a better box than this. I think you need to have in the savings a region of like at least 34 and 50, because we haven't seen less than that yet. So why should they have less? I think this suffers from one of the starter boxes maybe. I don't know when this was released, but it just doesn't feel like a good combat patrol. So yeah, let's go on to the next one. So the next one is one of the newer ones. This is the Nightlords. So Nightlords, as you guys probably well know, I'm a massive fan of Nightlords. I think they're fantastic. And this box, I think, is pretty solid for it. So we start off with a Chaos Lord with Jump Pack. We have a Chaos Rhino. We have 5 Chosen, 10 Legionnaires, and the Nightlord's Sprue from the Nemesis Claw. Basically, the 10 Legionnaires and the Nemesis Claw Sprue is just the Nemesis Claw box. All of that added together, including the Nemesis Claw being charged instead of the Legionnaires, all together comes to £150, which leads you to a £45 saving, which is pretty damn good. Now, I really like this box, because 5 Chosen, 10 Legionnaires is... A Rhino, 5 Chosen, 10 Legionnaires is a great core for a CSM army. Because units of 10 Chosen, you're going to see them. So we'll use 2 units of 10 Chosen. And all that good stuff. 10 Legionnaires are fantastic because you can turn them into Chosen as well. Because you know, with a bit of converting, using the Nightlord Sprue as well, and giving them some more icons and stuff, you could feasibly make 15 Chosen from this box, which is pretty awesome. Also, the Chosen kit mixed with the Nemesis Claw set is just... so good. Honestly, it's just... That kit is... That sprue... If I could buy that sprue individually, I'd just spam it. It'd be amazing. Alas, I'm here buying £40 boxes of Legionnaires for 1 sprue. I don't own 80 Legionnaires that I'm using. So... Yeah, and then the only thing that I don't like about the box is the Chaos Lord with Jump Pack, because there's nowhere for it to go, really. Like, I feel like I should have a unit of Raptors in there or something, if you're going to have him. I think he could just be replaced with a Chaos Lord, just a basic Chaos Lord, and you'd be fine. So, just because of that, I think I'm not going to put it into must-buy, because that would be massively skewed on my end. So, I'm going to put this into Good as the Greater Good, because just the Chaos Lord could just be swapped out for something a bit more relatable to the rest of the faction in the box. Yeah, so let's move on. Red Corsairs. They've had a big release recently, haven't they? With the Masters of Maelstrom and all that sort of thing. Now, this box comes with a Red Corsairs Reaver Captain, a Chaos Rhino, 5 Corsair Raiders, and 10 Felgor Ravagers. This box altogether comes to £144 for all of the individual pieces added together, which leads to a £39 saving, which is well in the region of okay. Now, there's a problem with the contents here. The Felgor Ravagers is well out of pocket. Why are they there? I mean, I get that they're probably there because they're somehow related to Red Corsairs. I'm not 100% sure of the lore on that one, but the box doesn't feel like a good box to start off with. I feel like this should have the Masters of Maelstrom in. Truly, I understand that you don't want the specialized characters in these boxes, but if you're making a Red Corsair box, put a Huron in. Put a Huron in. You know, have him as a little guy, or just have the Masters of Maelstrom in there or something. Just, I feel like either that or just put more Red Corsair bits in there rather than... I know they have the upgrade sprues in there, to be fair. Like, I feel like if they just replaced the Ravagers with something like, I don't know, Legionaries. Legionaries would be fine. Or anything else. I just don't feel like they need to be there. Because also, no one uses them in game. I'm not saying that they're bad or good. I don't know. I've not looked at them. But they just don't seem to be used. So the saving is solid. But I think the contents is a little wrong. So I'm going to put it into, unlike Magnus, this did do something wrong. But we're not going to put it into delete from Codex because it's a cool box-ish. It's almost there. They almost got the mark. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So Orks. Orks have a interesting combat box. So they have a Beast Boss, 4 Squighog Boys, 20 Snagger Boys. That's pretty solid. Now, each individual piece here added together comes up to £145.50, which leads to a £40.50 saving. Well within the region of acceptable for a combat patrol saving. So let's get into the actual contents. So Beast Boss is solid, goes with Beast Snagger Boys, nice and ties nicely together. Squighog Boys, again, ties nicely into them. The only thing is, it is quite, like, as a box, it's solid. The only problem is it's quite specialized like the Drukhari one. But the difference is, you do get to use these in, like, people still use Beast Snaggers and Beast Bosses, and they can convert them into other things. Like, I've seen people use Squighog Boys as spikes, like, you know, just like like have one of them holding a wheel, like Flintstone style and all that sort of thing. Now, I just don't think that would put it into not the highest tier for me, which would be a must go out and buy. But I'm gonna put it into good as the greater good, which I know the Orc players are gonna be offended by, but I'm sorry. they have to be as good as the Tau on this one day, and yeah. So yeah, guys, what do you guys think of the combat patrols? The ones that I didn't like. Do you have any suggestions on how to make them better so that GW can read them? Because this channel is huge and we have thousands and thousands of people watching, which we don't, but you know, we will. We'll get there. And speaking of which, if you like this video, guys, please do drop a like and subscribe. We love that stuff. I actually looked at the analytics recently and it turns out only 3% of the people who watched the last video were actually subscribed. So feel free to go and subscribe and watch the next one. And I would love that because I think it's really cool. And I want to show my content to more of you guys. So help me do this. Yeah. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, bye-bye.